guys, it's Stephanie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you another Manic Monday book review for The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Mistborn Era 1 trilogy, and oh my god, so good. Since this is a sequel, I'm going to do this review a little differently. I will still have a spoiler-free section, but most of this review will be spoilery because it's a sequel. I will let you know when I'm about to start the spoilery stuff, and then you can click away if you don't want to hear all that jazz. So, The Well of Ascension takes place about a year after the end of the Final Empire. The characters in this book are trying to regroup and rebuild after the events that happened at the end of the Final Empire. And this is a very political book. I think just from the reviews that I've seen, people either really like this book or they're just kind of meh about it. But I personally really enjoyed it. I thought that was so interesting and fascinating. And we also get so much character development in this book. One con, I will say, is that because there's so much politics and character development in here, that it does tend to be slower paced in parts, especially compared to the Final Empire, because that book just flew. So definitely keep that in mind. If you're reading this, it does definitely pick up near the end, like just really picks up, but for the most part this book is slower paced. One thing I really do like about this book that authors, you should definitely keep this in mind, there's a summary of book 1 in the back, which I found super helpful because even though I finished the Final Empire a little over a week and a half ago, it really helped to read this summary right before I started reading book 2. I'm going to mispronounce this, but we also learn more about something called feruchemy. I can't pronounce it. But basically, there are allomancers in this world where they can use metals to do certain things, and then there are also feruchemists in this world where they have like metal bands or something like that where they can store properties so that when they need them, they can use them, such as health, sight, strength, wakefulness, that sort of thing, which I thought was super cool, and it just adds another layer into this world. And we learn that Sazed can do this. I really enjoyed this book. The end just, it seemed like every other page I was just, what in the world? No, that's not going to happen. Yes, it is going to happen. Yes, he went there. Holy crap. I just thought this was a really good sequel, and I personally feel that it's not boring. I understand why some people don't like this as much because it is slower, but I personally just loved it. So now that we have done the spoiler-free section, now we're going to go into the spoiler section, so click away if you don't want to be spoiled, and let's just jump right in. So, I loved and was irritated by characters in this book. Vin, I kept having to remind myself, is 17, so she's still developing and growing, and she's coming into adult feelings and thoughts, and she's learning about herself. I love that Sanderson, I love that Sanderson really showed Vin working through her PTSD and her trauma and learning how to trust people again, and learning that she can trust the people around her, especially Elend and Sazed. They're her two closest friends, basically. And one thing that she did that drove me up the wall, which on one hand I get it, but she kept going around in circles going, I really love Elend, but I don't deserve him. But I really love him, but he really needs someone who can be this way. But I really love him, but I need to break up with him because he just deserves way better. And she really struggles with the concept of just being enough, which I can relate to, because that is hard when you've gone through things that made you feel like you were nothing. But it's the second book, then get it together. That was understandable and irritating at the same time. And Elend really grew on me. In the last book, I kind of just... The phrase wet mop comes to mind, which is horrible of me to say, but I could have just taken him or left him in the first book. But in this book, we really get to know him, and since he has been elected as king, and he's trying to do his best to create a government that benefits both sides and keeps the Ska out of their previous enslavement, I really appreciated his struggles, and he wants so desperately to be a good leader and a good man, and he's having such a hard time finding a good balance because he's also getting pushed and pulled from all the other parties involved in this government. I will say that he and Vin, while they don't have a lot of on-page chemistry, which I think is more Brandon Sanderson's lack of experience with that, because this was his first written book series, they're just not as... I wasn't a huge fan, like, nah, whatever. But they are a good match for each other. Vin is so physically strong and this insanely talented and powerful Mistborn. Like, when she went to find Set, she completely obliterated hundreds of men that were blocking her way to him. Went on a reign of terror, just slicing and dicing all the way up to him. So, you know, girl can hold her own. And while she's strong on the outside, Elend is really strong internally. And so I think they have a good balance. And they both want what's best for their kingdom and for the people. Another thing I really enjoyed was learning a lot more about Sazed and the journey he goes on. He was really intriguing to me in the first book, and then in this book, seeing his journey and his relationships with other people grow, and seeing him learn how to let go and be a friend and let go of his former role as a steward and a servant was really nice. And I loved his relationship with Tindwell, I think that's how you pronounce it. And she was so feisty and commanding, and she's the one who taught Elend, you know, how to be kingly, and then she and Sazed have this nice friendship that blooms into something more. And again, there's not a lot of on-page chemistry, but I really felt their love for each other in the writing, which made up for that, in my opinion. Honestly, one of my favorite characters in this entire book was Osur or Tinsun, who's the Khandra. He had such a good character arc in this book, and I did not expect the twist at the end that he was under contract from the enemy, so to speak. But I love that he's so sassy and snarky and funny in a very subtle way. Like when Vin states an opinion and he kind of disagrees with her, and then she gets onto him, he'll just, in a monotone, "I'll believe whatever you tell me to believe, mistress. Just tell me what to believe and I'll believe it. Like, screw you, just tell me what to do and I'll do it." And I just thought he was so funny. And I loved seeing their relationship grow, because at first you could tell he hated being under contract with her, and Vin did not like him because he had to ingest Kelsier to become Kelsier for that plan. But she slowly learns to get over it, and she learns that they have a very symbiotic relationship, and they actually become friends. And I cried a little bit when Tinsun's friendship with Vin and his love for her overcame his contract or his enslavement to his master, and he was able to save her from Zane. Like, it was so heartwarming and sweet, and I absolutely adored it. And the last character I want to talk about, even though this has been huge long book review, but the last character I want to talk about is Zane. And I thought he was such an interesting character. He's very gray, and from the moment that we meet him, you feel like you can trust him, but you need to be cautious, because can we really trust him? And he believes that he is insane. So you see him with this struggle and these voices that he hears telling him to do things. And I really thought he had schizophrenia or something similar, or something Strafe gave him or put on him that caused him to hear these voices. And the moment when Vin kills him, and right when he is dying, this voice tells him that he was never insane, just blew my mind. And I did really enjoy the Well of Ascension, and it really hit home when Vin killed the Lord Ruler and he said, "You have no idea what I've been doing for all of you." And then when she released the power and inadvertently released this horribly evil force into the world, it clicked, like, oh, maybe he was the lesser evil. And this book, on one hand, I understand why people think it was boring, but on the other hand, so much happens that you just stay interested. And the stuff with the battle I thought was pretty interesting. Normally I'm not a huge war military type person. I'm not a big fan of it in my books, but I really liked seeing the strategies that they tried to use to avoid a war, and how they tried to just keep everything in a gridlock until they could figure out what to do. And then the way it happened when the Colossus came, and things just took such a turn, and all these characters that we love were just dying and being slaughtered and struck down. It hurt my heart so bad. And at the end of this book, I literally sat there and I was kind of like tearing up a bit, and I didn't know what to do with myself. I just had to sit there and have quiet time and process, because I genuinely I just had to sit there because it was such an epic ending, and I'm so glad I don't have to wait on the third book. I already got it from my library. It's sitting in the other room, and I'm definitely going to jump into that one soon. So, have you read this book? If so, what did you think? Did you like it as much as I did? Did you think it was slower? And did you continue with the trilogy after reading this book? I'd love to talk to you guys about it in the comments. Sorry this was a really scattered review. This series still just blows me away, and I had notes, and I still feel like I wasn't completely coherent when doing this book review. So, the power of Sanderson. But as always, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.